Welcome to Glioblastoma AKA GBM, a podcast brought to you by the Glioblastoma Research Organization, highlighting stories of GBM warriors, caregivers, medical advisors, and more. Join us this season as we connect with members of our incredible community and have meaningful and insightful chats regarding all things glioblastoma. Please note that any information provided on the show is not meant to treat, diagnose, or prevent any disease, and all information that is discussed in our conversation is what worked for the individual themselves and should not be taken as advice. The information provided on this show is not a substitute for professional medical advice, and you should contact your medical provider and healthcare team with any questions. Paolo Presta, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Glioblastoma, aka GBM. I am so excited to have you here and be with you in Chicago and talk to you today about your amazing experience in all that you do, but also the experience you had with your mother in regards to glioblastoma. And I'm excited for everyone to hear your story.
Oh, thank you, Amber. I'm so honored to be here talking with you. I am in awe of all the work you continue to do. I admire you. I love you. So just thank you for inviting me. Really, thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So, before we get into it, I did a little research on you, and I was going to ask, tu parli italiano?
Sì, parlo un poco italiano. Sì, tu parli italiano?
Parlo un poco.
Ah, sì, scusa. Scusa tutti.
Mi dispiace.
Sì, mi dispiace, ma sì, zio, tutti sono dell'Italia, a Milano e Calabria.
Oh, amazing.
Sì. Oh, grazie.
So I got into this thing where it was like during COVID, I was like, this is my Italian phase.
Yeah.
And I only watched Italian Netflix with subtitles, and I like fluently learned Italian.
Oh my God.
Only listened to Italian music, and now I like fully understand it. I got everything
That
you
is
said, but I
so
was like, he's
cool.
Italian. I can say a couple words. I'm so excited.
Both my parents were born and raised in Italy, in Calabria, the small town Cosenza, Trevisano. That's where they're from, my mom and dad. And we're going there this summer, my husband and I, to see my mom's sisters and everyone.
Oh my God, that's
yeah,
so exciting.
I'm excited. Yeah.
I was actually also preparing. I was like, what if he says he doesn't speak Italian?
What are you going to do?
I didn't have a backup, so I'm really glad we just went there.
Sì, sicuro, sì, grazie.
There you go. So aside from your incredible Italian, and that experience, I know you are the host of a show, A Spoonful of Paolo. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we started this show, my husband and I, 12 years ago. I grew up watching daytime television. I was a huge Oprah Winfrey fan, and growing up here in Chicago, I would always go to her taping. And so just like when I moved to LA, I was a part of the Ellen show, and I worked on CBS's The Talk daytime show. And I came home one day and I said to my husband, can you help me? I really want to have my own show. And then that day he went upstairs, did the what do you call it? What is it called? The logo. He did the logo, and we just started doing it. And it's 12 years later, and we've had guests like Oprah Winfrey, Whoopi Goldberg, Carol Burnett, Kris Jenner, anyone you could think we've had on our show. And I'm just so grateful and blessed.
That's incredible.
Thank
and when
you.
I was doing research on the show as well, I noticed that in the early 2000s, you kept constantly emailing Oprah Winfrey about wanting to be on it. No, and I love that because anyone that knows me, I'm very persistent to a point where people are like, Amber, there was a sponsor for the show. One of the sponsors, I've emailed her at least 50 times.
Wow.
And every time I call her and I'm just like, hey, do you have an update? And then now officially they're a sponsor, so I'm super excited.
Wow.
So I love that I loved reading that you were very adamant about working with Oprah because it's I was like, yes, respect. I get that.
She changed my life. I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for Oprah Winfrey. She came to my dad's grocery store, changed my life, got me a small role on Will and Grace when it was on TV at the time. And I would write her letters after letters because my dad's dream was to have all 7 of his kids in the grocery store business. And I just knew that wasn't my calling at that time. So I just kept writing her letters and emailing her. And then one Thursday morning, she came to my dad's store and surprised me. And it went down as the best reaction in the Oprah show ever, that I ever had. I mean, wouldn't you be surprised if Oprah came to visit you in the suburbs and you're just working, then all of a sudden she comes in there and she's calling your name, Amber? You'd be like, oh.
What went through your head?
Oh my God. I was very emotional because all my family was there. My mom, my dad, all my siblings, some of the nieces and nephews. And I'm like, what is she doing here? I mean, yes, I wrote her letters, but I don't remember what I wrote because I was just in awe of having her presence in my dad's store. And I just went crazy, and I was like, oh my God. I knew she was there to give me some good news. I didn't know what, because I'm like, she ain't gonna come all the way down to the suburbs and tell you something. But I was just overjoyed, and I knew that was gonna be life-changing. And when she came there, it literally changed my life because then I moved to LA, and that's where I came out and all that stuff. So it was just great.
And here you are today.
And here I am with you.
12, but no, not even just 12 years of having an incredible show, but also here with me, and it's so exciting.
That's the big thing, okay?
Thanks, Oprah. We're here now because of you. We appreciate it. What do you feel is the most valuable lesson you've learned throughout your career?
Wow. Persistence. You were saying this earlier. I'm somebody who, I believe in myself. I believe in our show. I believe in what I stand for, and I will just keep fighting for it. I mean, I can't tell you how many no's I got with celebrities who didn't want to be in our show with their publicists, but it didn't stop me from trying to get them. Whatever tools I use to go around the whoever to get them, I will do it. And I'm telling you, it is one of the hardest things, but persistence kept me going, and and that's just a beautiful thing that I have inside of me.
Yeah. Transitioning persistence to your experience with glioblastoma. Well, first, my question is, I'd love for you to share more about your experience with glioblastoma, but then in relation to that, do you feel like your persistence helped you in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I didn't even know what glioblastoma was until President Biden would talk about his son who passed away from it. And then I also knew Meghan McCain, who I know was a guest on your show as well, which was such a great interview you did.
Thank you.
I know that her father passed away from it. So those two people is like when I started getting information from, but then when it hits your family, it's different. You still Google things, you still want more answers, you want to know more things about it. But I think maybe I was the only one in my family, and I have a big family, who knew what it was, just because I just always knew of them talking about their loved ones who have passed away from it. So it's been the last year and these last 2 years, it's been a part of my life, just learning about it and understanding it, because it just changes your life.
How did you come to learn about your mom's glioblastoma diagnosis, and can you walk everyone through the journey of her being diagnosed with brain cancer?
Yeah, my mom was 64 when she was diagnosed with glioblastoma. My mom was very healthy. She took good care of herself, went to all her checkups and everything. But one morning, she was at Disney World with my brother and his family and my dad, and she was just having a good day. But in that morning, she felt a little bit off. And then all of a sudden, she was telling my dad, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I feel dizzy, something. My dad said, let's go. Let's sit down, sit down. And then when she sat down, she collapsed at Disney World. And and so she collapsed, and then they called the Disney people, who were amazing. They called the ambulance helicopter. They flew my mom to Orlando Hospital, and then they did brain surgery, and she had so much blood in her brain, so they had to take that out. So she had a stroke. That was it. But then we found out a couple days after that she was diagnosed with glioblastoma. My husband and I left to go to Florida that same day she collapsed, and it was the scariest flight I've ever been on, because you don't know, I didn't know what was happening with her, what's happening with my mom. But, we found out a couple days after that she was diagnosed with that. And we were by the pool, my husband and I, waiting. We were just talking. I was in the pool. We were just hanging out over there waiting for someone to give us more information. And when we found out, it was just, it was the worst news that you can possibly get. Yeah.
Assuming you were very close with your mom.
Yeah. My mom and I, my mom was close to all the kids, but I don't know, maybe because I'm different and I'm the gay child, we had a beautiful bond. It was so special. I always say this to everyone, she was my biggest fan. She just loved me unconditionally. I use that word all the time when I write about her. The word, unconditionally. She was just so good to me. She protected me. She just was always there for me. She supported me and our web show.
I saw she was a guest on it as well.
Yeah, she was a guest too. Oh my God, yeah, she was a guest. It was a couple years back, and we flew to Chicago, and my mom was so good. She makes all her homemade pasta and all that stuff, and we had her on our show. And I'm telling you, it was my husband's idea. He said, let's do it. And it was just the best thing to have this footage of my mom making pasta, with me. She's was, I don't know, a remarkable woman. Yeah.
It must be special to look on too. I feel like memories of, you guys cooking together, of her being on the show as well. It must be nice to look back. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago I found a video of my dad on my phone, and I put it on TikTok because we got into TikTok recently. People just, it connects with so many people, and it's so interesting to see how something so personal to you can also be really helpful and healing and supportive towards other people as well.
Yeah, because it's been about 5 years since your father passed
5
away?
years in a month, 3 weeks. That's actually crazy.
How is it for you with the grief? It's been 5 years. So is it 5 years, 3 months? Are you in a better place, where you were a year and 2 months ago? Because I think about me or anyone else who's out there who's grieving, because I know it's different for all of us. How are you doing then 5 years and 3 months later?
It's interesting. I was thinking about this a lot the other day, and it's very much like as the years go on, it doesn't get easier but it becomes kind of like a normal way of living. And a lot of the times I think about my dad. I mean, I think about him 100, 200 times a day. Like it's just always a thought. Like I'm wearing a Yukon sweater. He went to Yukon. You know, it's like it's always a part of my life. But it gets to a point where it's not like sad. And I used to like be just like really upset, and I had a hard time with grief because like I like to be in control of a lot of things. I'm very, very type A. And especially with a glioblastoma diagnosis, you can't control it. Yeah. And I sort of, over the years, it's just become a part of my life. And I don't think necessarily about all of the sad things and like, oh, I wish my dad was here, because I do. But I think that my mindset more so has changed to thinking about all of the amazing things that I learned from him, and like talking about Yukon, and like he's in the Hall of Fame. Like how badass is that? Like super fun stuff. And it becomes more like joyful, and it's become less upsetting.
Wow.
But again, like there's also sad days. You hear a sad song. Like I can't listen to Cake by the Ocean because I'll start crying. Like because he used to dance, it's really random stuff like that. And I think it's also a different circumstance for me because like I have the nonprofit now, and like I'm talking about this 80% of my day. Yeah. And so I don't think it's the typical grief experience. But yeah, I think every day is different, and sometimes it's bad and it sucks and you want to cry, and sometimes it's just like you can talk about these amazing memories and experiences and not be upset, and you're like, wow, like this is just cool, and it's like a cool thought to have. So
I think right now I think I'm mad. Like it's weird because it's like different stages of how you feel, and I think right now I'm kind of angry at this cancer, like because my mom was so young. She had 7 kids. She got married so young.
And she passed away at 60.
She passed away at 65.
Okay, my dad passed away at 66, so similar.
And she only had 10 months, so it's just you get angry, because this was her time to really enjoy her life with my dad. Like they just have such a beautiful marriage, and they did everything together, and she was just the best mother to all 7 of us kids. And so I just get angry at this glioblastoma. I get angry that it took away so quickly. I get angry that what it did to her, and like the last couple of months where it just takes away, the walking and the vision. And it just breaks your heart, but that's why I started talking about grief too on my social media, which is weird, but I love it because like I never like when people like would post on Facebook, oh, I just lost my mom, from cancer. I felt bad for them, but I have such a different like understanding, and I get them now because I'm going through it. Like when you see someone's post, oh, you like it, I'm so sorry, and you forget about it. But this was like life-changing. So when I post a video about grief, it's amazing how many people can relate and write, oh, I've been through this. It gets easier, it gets harder. Like you hear everyone's at a different place in their grief. So I don't know, that's why I like posting about it, because it makes you feel like you're not alone, that you're dealing with this.
Yeah, and especially for me, at least with my father, when I was going through his diagnosis like 5 years ago, I mean, there was 1, 2, 3 other organizations. Like no one was in existence, and like so there was no support groups. There was no Instagram that had it, anything. Like you said, like you Google glioblastoma, and I mentioned it before on the show. That's why the show is called Glioblastoma AKA GBM, because that's the first thing you see on Google, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, smart.
But it's just like there's no community, or at least there wasn't. We've been trying to change that, but it's so helpful to know that other people are going through what you're going through. Yeah. And I think the same way about the whole Facebook. I was like, why are you going to post like something so personal? But then I've realized also through this process is that it's nice to know what people are going through, because then you can kind of connect on certain levels and to understand like you're literally not alone. Like there's millions of people dealing with the exact same thing. Yeah. And it all sucks, but it's nice that you're not by yourself.
Yeah. And it's weird because I think I saw a video you did that when you went through this, like nobody knew what you were, like nobody understood what you were going through because nobody knew what glioblastoma was. And I feel like even me 5 years later with my mom, it's weird because I knew somewhat about it, but a lot of people don't even know what it is. Like a lot of my friends, like a lot of people were like Googling it, like, and then they would get scared, and they didn't know what to say to me. Some didn't say anything. It's just everybody's at a different place, but it could be scary, but there's resources out there. You just have to find them, like you guys, that are just amazing. Like I love what you guys do on Wednesdays when you share people's stories. Like, I mean, you did that with my mom.
You shared your mom's story.
Yeah, I remember it was so beautiful, and it gives people hope, and it lets people know that you're not alone, Yeah.
What was the personal relationships like in your life when you were going through your mom's journey? Were your friends there? I mean, how did it, were people supportive?
I like growing up, I was, in special ed because my brother and I, we didn't speak English. We spoke Italian. So they put us in special ed. So kind of put me back in
Here I am asking if you speak Italian.
Yes.
Whoops.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. No, I don't.
Tutto bene.
No, tutto bene. See, no. Yeah. So we were in special ed, and so I didn't have that many friends growing up. It wasn't until I kind of went to college that my life changed. But throughout all the stuff that I went through in school and trying to get placed out of school and a teacher incident that happened, like I just like having these flashbacks and remembering that she was always there for me. Like everything that I've been through as a kid, as an adult, she just protected me. She protected me from those who didn't accept me. She protected me from the teacher. She protected me, just from people who didn't like what I did. Like, she always like stood up for me, and I think that's what I miss the most about her. But she was just my best friend. She was everything, because I didn't really start my life social, like going out and stuff with friends until I was in college. But yeah, through all of that, she was there. She was there for me.
And when she was going through her diagnosis, who did you find that you could lean on through support?
Oh, my husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out husband.
Yeah, who's here? Like I've learned so much from him. Like I said this to him. I say this to him all the time. I know that I wouldn't be here today if he wasn't next to me, because losing a mother is the hardest thing, especially when you're so close with that person. Like I remember Whoopi Goldberg, not to drop a name, but when we interviewed her, she said and it's true, like it's the first person who you touch, who gives birth to you, who holds you, hugs you, feeds you. It's that first person. So that bond is already there. And then the bond that my mother and I had was so special. So just on top of that layer, another layer and another layer. But my husband gave me notes. He convinced me to see a therapist, a couple therapists, because sometimes when you're grieving someone, it's just everything is so dark. It's so dark inside, but he was there and he guided me and he reminds me and he'll tell me to invite my mom into the room, into the space, or when I'm cooking, invite my mom. And, and it's beautiful. I'm so grateful and blessed to have him.
Well, I'm also very happy that you're here.
Thank you.
Do you feel like during the initial stages of your mom's GBM journey, were you active about it on social media? Like, were you publicly sharing what you were going through, or did you sort of decide to wait? Not
in the beginning. In the beginning, I was confused what was happening with her. Like when we were in Florida for almost like a month or 3.5 weeks, we were there. My husband and I, my goal was, I was asking people to pray for my mom or keep her in your thoughts. I wasn't really open about what she had because we were confused. But my goal was to be with my mom next to her and also take care of my dad because, today my dad is 79 years old and it's like for all of us kids, it's so hard. But for him, it's the hardest because he feels alone. So those were my goals, was taking care of my mom and my dad. But then I think once we got back to Chicago and my mom went straight to a rehabilitation place over here, then I started opening up a little bit more on social media, about my mom and the process and just asking for prayers because none of us want to lose our mom. Even if you know what glioblastoma is, you know what could happen, what will happen, but just because when you love someone so much, you don't want that person to physically leave.
Sure.
Yeah.
What made you want to speak out and share your story with publicly? Because you do have a platform, so because it's also scary to share it.
At first, I was scared when I would do a video and asking people for prayers and what we're going through, my family and I. But then when I saw more people sharing their story, I'm like, they're sharing their story. And then I just became more comfortable sharing my story. And I don't know why, because it's really, and some people don't have to share it. I mean, I understand it, but I just feel like who I am, the platform I have, I just want other people to remind them that they're not alone. So by me sharing my story with my mom and what she had, it's really helping people out there, a lot of people out there.
For sure. Were you a caregiver for your mom?
Yes. Yeah. We all took, I have 6 siblings and we still do the schedule with my dad every day. When my mom got sick, when my mom came back here from Florida, we at the end of the month, we get on the phone, all the siblings, and we do a schedule. And every day someone was there with the caregiver. They had a caregiver, my dad, but us kids wanted to be there and help with the medicine and all that stuff. And some days I would just go there even when I wasn't my day, just to be with her. You know, they live in the suburbs. It's like 45 minutes from here, but we would go there, Patrick and I would just sit next to her. She was always in a wheelchair, which was weird because my mom was someone who would always walk around and do things. So it just was so hard to see her in this wheelchair, but I would just always just be next to her. I would not go on social media. I would just be present, and I would just always I had this thing with just playing with her hair, and we would be watching like Dancing with the Stars or American Idol. Even she would always want to watch like episodes of interviews that I did, and I would just be sitting next to her, and I just was holding that in, those moments that were so sacred.
Absolutely. Aside from that, what was the experience like being a caregiver? Like, were you, I mean, obviously it's super overwhelming and it's difficult, but how did you, manage, and what did you end up doing every day? Yes, it's very challenging because it's hard to be a caregiver for someone you love so much, and you're seeing them in this pain, discomfort, this not knowing what's going to happen. So that was hard because it was my mom, but it was beautiful being a caregiver because I would do it all over again because I loved being with her. I loved seeing her. I loved just being next to her. So it's like you get the best of both worlds. But when it's someone you love, and I know a lot of people will feel like this, you'll just do whatever you can to be with that person. And for me, because it was my mom, I would do it all over again. And it wasn't easy, because, my dad was stressed. My dad was with her 24 hours a day. He slept next to her. He stayed in a tiny room when they had a quarantine in a hospital here in Chicago. He stayed with her, couldn't get out of that room for 2 weeks. I get that love and admiration from my father, but I would do it all over again. So being a caregiver was a gift, but it was also hard because it's someone that I love. What do you think you've learned from having seen your parents together until your mother passed away? Because it's obviously, it's very rare nowadays for, divorce is just so common. Like, at least my parents as well, like my parents were together and my dad passed away.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's pretty uncommon.
Yeah.
And now, and obviously, I think I personally learned a lot. It's just, you're kind of there, till death do you part when you make these marital vows. What was that like for you to see that your dad was just there?
I tell this to my husband all the time. I have a lot of friends with their parents, but I've never, and it's not just because it's my parents, I've never seen a couple as beautiful, dedicated, the love for each other, the way my dad took care of my mom. My dad is not very young, he married my mom. He was 27. My mom was 16 when they got married in Italy. So my dad's dream was my mom was going to take care of him when he gets old. So now my dad's world it's been reversed. It's been it's the opposite. But seeing how much he cared for her and the love and the sacrifice and just being there, it was just the most beautiful thing. I will just images during the most difficult time of our life, there were still some beautiful images and just some photos that I took. I posted on my TikTok a dance that my mom and dad, it was the first time my mom danced. I had Ed Sheeran's song. My mom loves him. And my dad said, Marilyn, that's her name, Marilena. Marilyn, get up. I hold you. We dance. And I was recording it, and my husband was on the other side recording it. And they were dancing. It was the first time that they were dancing. Her steps, they were really small, but it was so beautiful. And the response that I got in the video, overwhelming, because it's you can feel and see the love with my parents. It was just, I'll never forget it. Yeah. Are
you and your dad closer, do you think, since your mom passed away?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like you're in our car. I was talking to my husband about this. My dad and I.
So that's actually how we thought of the questions.
Yeah.
So I didn't send them to you before the interview.
That's why I didn't get your questions. Okay, you sent it to him. Growing up, my dad and I have two other brothers, and amazing. They were more in my dad's footsteps, working at the grocery store. They do everything with my dad. They do the gardening. They're more man type. I'm not like that. So my dad and I weren't really that close at that time. The best father, no, just no questions asked. But I just didn't have that relationship that I did with my mom. But now, because we still do the schedule. We're all with my dad. I'm with my dad tomorrow, and I love being with him. When I came out to him was one of the hardest things I did. But my husband told me, you have to come out not for your father, but for yourself. And I did that. But when I came out to him, my life changed with him. It's he got to know me, the real me, that I wasn't hiding me being my authentic self. And our relationship is so beautiful. It's sad that my mom's not here, But it's like maybe she made this all happen. Like our relationship with my dad is so beautiful, so special. Like, and we were watching my interview with Whoopi Goldberg like a couple months ago, and it's like I would always do this with my mom, but like now for the first time watching that interview with my dad, who was very proud of me too. So it's like it's just we're in such a beautiful place, and I love taking care of him.
That's great. That's really special, and it's nice that you're able to share these moments that you had with your mom, because it kind of keeps like her legacy alive in a way. It's like 100%. You get to do this with another parent.
And Italian people, like Italian family, like they're very close, and we're so close. My siblings and I, sometimes we're too close, but like we're so close. And my mom had all her like specialty goodies, and she took care of my dad with her food. So I try to do that. I mean, I'm not like my mom, but like tomorrow I'm making occhiette with broccoli. So I'm like, my mom used to make that. This is a different recipe, but hopefully my dad will like it.
Kind of leading into my next question, what is the favorite recipe your mom ever made?
Oh my God. There's a lot. It's hard to pinpoint it, but my mom just always made a good sauce, like with her pasta. And
okay,
she made.
So what's the recipe? I'm taking notes.
Oh, we'll see how this goes. But it's going great, by the way. But yeah. But another thing that there's a lot of things that they made in southern Italy that she learned on her own, and she makes them so good. Like they're called scalettes, which she would make during Christmas. They're just like these beautiful Italian cookies. And then like she make guderidis. It's like this round bread thing that it takes her all day to make it. But no one like from any of my relatives, and they all know this, so I'm not putting anyone down, but they know that my mom prepared it so perfect. It looked so beautiful, so she did a lot of Italian specialty that like I cannot make. I mean, I'll try, but I just fail, but she was just so good at that. So I do miss all that she would make.
What do you think is like one, I know obviously this is a very loaded question, but like one favorite lesson, whether it's, food related or not, that you've, learned from your mom that you feel like you take with you day to day?
I think just seeing how she, how she came to this country as a young girl and what she sacrificed, and that she tried so hard and she did it so successfully, and who she is and how she would dress up. And sometimes my relative, people, I won't name names, but some people are like, oh, she's wearing a sequin dress, she's gonna go to hell. Like, what are you talking about? Like she was just like, she just looked so beautiful and she felt so good about herself. So I think I think more than the food is just me being my authentic self. I'm able to be who I am is because of her. Like I see this woman who is so strong and so beautiful. Yeah, so I get that from her. Yeah. Oh, I miss her.
Wish there wasn't a table here. I would give you a hug and walk all the way around.
No. Yeah, so I just miss her so much. But yeah, she just reminded me of that. Like even coming out and all that. Like she just stood up for me with some people who didn't accept me. Growing up Catholic is not easy when this is who you are. And my parents go to church every Sunday. Every Sunday they go to church. But my mom knew this is who I was, that I was born like this. And it's just like, and my parents, growing up in a town where there's like only 50 people in the small town in Italy, they didn't know anyone nobody talked about it, or they only knew what they knew. But they've come such a long way. And it's all because of, and I always say it's unconditional love. Like she literally loved me for who I was, what I wanted to do. It was so beautiful. So I got that from her.
Biodexa Pharmaceuticals is proud to sponsor the Glioblastoma AKA GBM podcast. Biodexa Pharmaceuticals is a small biotechnology company hoping to make a big difference in the treatment of glioblastoma. Using their proprietary nanotechnology, Biodexa is developing liquid formulations of an investigational drug which can be delivered directly and locally into the tumor via an implanted catheter. This drug has been previously investigated in pediatric patients with brain tumors. Biodexa Pharmaceuticals is currently running a clinical trial in patients with recurrent glioblastoma known as the MAGIC-G1 trial. To find out more about the MAGIC trial, visit magictrials.com. Imagine waking up from brain tumor removal surgery knowing that your radiation treatment is already underway. That's how gamma-tile therapy works. At the end of brain tumor removal surgery, the neurosurgeon implants the gamma-tiles where the tumor is most likely to return. So instead of waiting to start daily standard radiation treatments that go for weeks, you get a head start against tumor cells and get back to your life sooner. For operable brain tumors of all types, including glioblastomas, brain metastases, meningiomas, gamma-tile therapy is a one-time, targeted radiation treatment with fewer side effects and far less chance of hair loss than external radiation. Gamma-tile therapy is tough on tumors and easier on patients and caregivers. Learn more at gammatile.com. Gamma-tile therapy is an FDA-cleared radiation therapy for patients with newly diagnosed malignant brain tumors and recurrent brain tumors. Novacure is pleased to support the Glioblastoma AKA GBM podcast. Novacure strives to extend survival in some of the most aggressive forms of cancer through the development and commercialization of their innovative therapy called Tumor Treating Fields. Novacure partners with the Glioblastoma Research Organization to work together on behalf of patients and their loved ones impacted by GBM. To learn more, visit novacure.com. Rune was built by a team of patients, caregivers, and medical experts, consisting of neurosurgeons, neuro-oncologists, psycho-oncologists, radiation oncologists, nurse practitioners, and social workers who have devoted their lives to treating and helping glioblastoma patients. For anyone navigating GBM, Rune offers a wealth of medically vetted, digestible video answers to common questions. Answers are organized into major topics ranging from surgery to radiation to caregiver mental health. Check it out at rune.com. Is there something that you would tell yourself now, looking back today, if this was like day one of your mom being diagnosed?
Ooh. That you're going to get through it? Because I think it was always, even in the good days, I thought about the bad days. Like during the summer, I always think like, okay, 2 years ago now, you know, as we get to the summer, my mom was doing good, like in the summer, but then all of a sudden it's just come to the fall, things were just getting really scary. So I would just tell like him to hang in there and you're going to be okay. Because even in the good days, I was thinking, okay, but I know what this is, and I know where this is going to go. But I just like my husband always remind me to be present and take in these good days. Because if I'm already worried about what's at the end, then I'm not really living in that moment. So I would just be there. And when she's smiling, I would take that in. When she would say, let's watch American Idol, I would take that in. When she would ask me a question, or my mom's a talker. Like, so when she would tell me a 5-minute story, I would say, keep talking. Like before she got sick, I'd be like, Mom, like it's a long story. Like, okay, Mom, stop there. But now when she was sick, I would always be like inside my mind, just keep talking. Because I know where this is going to lead to. But that moment, there were so many beautiful moments in the darkest moment, you know?
Do you find that during your journey with glioblastoma, because obviously you continued to have your show. Yeah. Did you find it difficult to continue staying on camera while going through this in a personal matter?
100%. I remember we were interviewing the cast of this TV show. I think it was Younger. And it was right when we just got back from Florida, and they were the first interview I did, and it was a group of people. It was like six of them. And I remember how hard it was thinking, wow, I have to go do an interview, but my mom has glioblastoma. Like, what am I, like, then I have to put up a smile and ask these questions and engage with them. And it's like, it's really hard. But I did it for my mom, and I did it for me because I know that I have to be strong. And if I'm not strong, then how am I going to be able to take care of her? So I didn't do a lot of the episodes during the time my mom was sick. I did really people I really wanted to do. But it was hard, but I did it for her and I did it for me because I needed something to do to keep me sane, to keep me like alive. Because if I didn't do that, then what would I have done then? I needed like an escape to go to, even as hard as it was. Because like when you do, people who don't follow me on social media, they just saw this interview on YouTube and go, oh my God, this kid's so funny. Oh my God, he's so blah, blah. But I'm like, they probably would have no idea like underneath this is somebody who's like really just a mess and emotional and sad and scared. But yeah, the show kept me going.
Yeah. That's why I think it's so important also to be like very open on social media, or not necessarily, that open, but as open as you want to be, because it's like this it's like highlight reel of everyone's life and everything is all smiley and fake and like edited, and it's like that's not reality. Even like for me, like my personal social media, I have 100 people on it. Like I post like just whatever I feel like, and it's just it's those 100 people, or give or take a few, it's people that like know who I am and like know my story, and I don't have to pretend to put on this show for a lot of people. Whereas if you're someone on the outside looking in, you can be like, okay, like Amber is this person that has this organization that does all these things, but like I've got bad days too. Yeah. And I think it's just so important to be like authentic, and just social media is like, it's like the worst and it's the best thing ever. Because it's like you can share so much.
You could put a filter over that, but it's like when you're being real, that's what they want to see. Like everybody can do a selfie and smile, but sometimes I do. Like I've been sharing stories. Like yesterday for International Women's Day, like I shared a story about my mom, like when I was in a play in high school called Time Out for Ginger. And I remember like I got the lead role, but I'm like, wait, how am I going to do rehearsal? Thank you. It was a really good Tommy, Ginger said. She wrote on my Facebook yesterday. Like, I remember like, okay, now there's gonna be a lot of rehearsals, but we were like obligated to work at my dad's grocery store. Like as kids, like after school, like my dad said, I'll help you pay for your school, but you got to work at the store. I said, okay, fine. But now I'm like, how am I going to work at this store? So my mom like said, we won't tell your father. And I was like, she goes, we'll tell him you're studying after school. And I was just
Love
like,
that.
Isn't that like, it's just like, I mean, and now if I tell my dad today, he won't even care. Like he knows what I do, but just the times were different back then growing up. They were just different. My dad, everything we have is because of my father. Like he's just an amazing person. But back then, like my mom understood, oh, my son really wants to do this show. So we'll just tell your father you're studying after school. And they were like, oh, my dad would be like, well, what's he studying? He's there at school at 6 o'clock in the night.
Literature.
Yeah, literature, exactly.
Right.
Math, science, all that stuff. You guys don't know. So yeah, like she would always like kind of like do that to protect me because she wanted me to enjoy and do things that she knew that I was good at and that would make me happy.
Side question, what's your favorite show to watch? Like Broadway or anything related?
Oh my God. Well, I guess like we saw Hamilton like with the original cast, right? Yeah, like we saw like a couple times here in Chicago, but we saw it in New York, which I wouldn't even tell you how much my husband spent on those tickets. But it's just
I saw it once, and I think unpopular opinion. No, don't get me wrong.
Okay,
Start off.
here we go.
Hamilton's great.
Debate.
But it's hard for me to keep up with the storyline because the whole thing is a rap.
Yes.
And so I found that I couldn't understand what was happening, but I thought it was so cool.
Look, I was in special ed. I got you, okay? Let me tell you this. But my husband prepared me for months. He would play the soundtrack in our car.
Oh, so you knew the whole thing already.
So and he would explain to me. He's like, "Do you know what they said?" I'm like, "No, I don't understand what I like the music, but I don't know what they're saying." So he would like tell me. So it was like almost going to a class. I was so prepared. I knew because I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's Jefferson. I get what they're doing. I get why they're all like doesn't matter. They're going beyond the color of the skin, all that. You're seeing like it's just this imagineering world." But he's so good that he prepared me for it, and so I knew it all. So if you have any questions, ask Patrick.
I have so many questions about
Patrick, get
Hamilton.
ready.
Let's go. Switch seats.
No, he doesn't want to be on camera.
Like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So you'd say Hamilton's your favorite?
I mean, Hamilton, I saw Legally Blonde on Broadway too, which was really cute and funny and good. Wait, we saw something in Chicago.
Have you seen Book of Mormon?
Yeah, we saw Book of Mormon. Yeah, we saw that in LA. We saw
I saw that 2 days ago.
Yes.
And I saw that. I thought it was so incredible. I saw it back to back.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is the best. And now whenever someone says hello,
Yeah.
just like my brain is like, hello. Like, and literally the last 3 days, whenever like I call like my friends, like, hello. And I'm just like, hello. Like my head starts going on a tangent. But
yeah,
I can talk about musicals all day.
I saw that in LA. It's so good. And I
Yeah.
think for a TV show, I mean, I'm a Hilary Duff fan. Like she's been on our show 5 times. I love her.
I saw that. That was a recent with her.
we
the
went
cast
last
of
month,
the,
How I Met Your Father. So we've been binge watching How I Met Your Father. Love it so much. Hilary Duff cannot go wrong in anything she does, and don't be mean to me, people. So I love her so much. And then we watch a lot of reality shows because my husband forces me to. I love RuPaul Drag Race. We do watch RuPaul, but there's so many other reality shows we don't have to get into. But yes.
Do you like to watch cooking shows because of the
Yes.
love your mom put you into cooking?
Yes, we've been watching the British, what is it, the British?
Great British Bake Off.
Yeah. We always watch that. My mom and dad would watch that. So yeah, sometimes it's hard to watch it, but sometimes, like one show I can't really watch is American Idol because that was a show that my mom like loved so much.
My dad also. We would
Really?
only watch like the interview, not the interviews, like the auditions.
Oh, yeah,
and
the
then it got
auditions.
kind of boring.
Yeah,
But it was just like all like the
'Cause they show
really
you-
like the really funny, like people are like, what are you doing on this show?
Yeah, like so when I like now like you see the promos now because it's just started again, American Idol. It's hard because every time I see that it's whether it's the music or a show, you're always gonna think about your loved one, your parent, your father, your mom, and so every time I see American Idol, like just a commercial of it, God, it just it's like I just can't even go there.
But I think over time as well, it's gonna start to become less hard, and it'll feel like I told someone the other day, it's like it feels like kind of like a hug. Like it just feels good to like do these certain things. So I think.
I could see that.
Over time it happens, and I think everyone's like obviously like on their own brief timeline.
Yeah.
It does start to feel okay.
Yeah, a lot of people. I've been seeing this common thread with people I've interviewed who have lost someone. It's all like everybody's been telling me kind of like the first 2 years are like the most difficult for you, the first 2 years, and then after you're gonna find a way. Like you're gonna have your moments for sure, but it's the first 2 years because it's like each day it gets longer and longer that I haven't heard her voice or physically have seen her. So it's just. It's hard, but I go to the cemetery once a week. I would go there to see my mom. And then we have a bench that was put in our park. It was in honor of my mom, and it has like a saying on there. So like, like yesterday I went to go sit on the bench and I just try to feel her. And then sometimes you can hear the wind, like the leaves blowing on the tree. There were some dead leaves on this tree right in front of my mom's bench. So when the wind goes, you can just hear the leaves go, and it's so beautiful.
Do you find that are you very into spirituality or like meditation when it comes to someone passing away?
100%.
Okay.
I think more in that the last couple of years, especially, I just been learning more about it, but 100%, like just signs that my mom, there's a specific sign my mom sends me now that I've noticed. Cause I had asked my mom, after she passed away, like maybe a couple months after. And I said, Mom, can you send me a sign? Please send me a sign. And I was very specific. I said, if you can send me like a blue bird, somehow, blue bird. I need to know that you're okay up there. And then 2 days after, my husband and I went for a walk here downtown Chicago. And my husband said, he said, let's go this way. And I said, no, let's go this way to the left. And so we walked around the corner of like the Bloomingdale Mall, and there was a big display, and in that display were all bluebirds.
Really?
It was all bluebirds. And
oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, they were all bluebirds.
So 2 comments to that. One, I think it's crazy how also with my father, like I have a story about him and like crows, and it's like not like a pretty bird or whatever, but there's like one crow, he used to like walk my dog down this one street, and this crow used to attack him every day and would just like swoop down from the sky, literally just like would attack my dad's head. I would like peck at it and would like walk away. And so whenever I see a crow, I think of that. And like, same thing with like signs and, whatever. So I definitely associate. But it's also funny because in my interview with Megan and Jimmy McCain, they talk about how hawks remind them of their dad. I think everyone's just got like a bird. There's so many just bird situations also. A good friend of mine also, she was going through like this very hard decision in her life. And she was like looking at this bird on a tree. And she's like, if I should do this decision, like go left. Wow. And then the bird goes to the left. And she's like, should I do this decision? Like testing them. She's like, go to the right. The bird like goes to the right. I feel like birds are nuts.
Yeah. And I was specific because I remember interviewing Valerie Bertinelli, and she was telling me when her ex-husband had passed away, he had cancer. She had asked for a sign too, and she wanted to see a flock of birds. So she went to her window and all these birds came. And that was like in February. So then I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna ask my mom for a sign too, but I want to be more specific. I'm gonna say just blue birds. And then since that day, like we were in New York when we went to go interview Hoda Kotb on the Today Show. Like there was a blue bird in, what airport was that? LaGuardia Airport. Yeah, like it was a blue bird there. So it's like all these signs that my mom like gives me, and it makes me feel like, oh God, she's there. She's totally there. I don't know how it works. But I'm not.
I don't even question it.
I'll leave that to the scientists or the spiritual people. They can explain it. But it's like there's just signs of my mom like that she sends to Patrick and I and my other family members as well. And it's just that knowing that her spirit is there, that she's still alive.
It feels really good.
Yeah.
Has your mom like visited you in a dream?
No, not me. She's visited my dad very quickly and my older sister. For me, she had sent me a color that I had asked her. It was the day before her funeral. And a friend of mine who lives in Australia, she said, ask your mom for a color, and that's going to be your color. So I said, okay. I asked my mom for color. When I went to bed, I didn't realize it until we were at my mom's wake, because I was standing next to the color that my mom sent me that night, which was purple. So like, it was just like, so she sent me a sign like that, but not yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Also because I'm not a good sleeper. Like
right.
Things have been crazy this last year and 2 months.
A lot.
So yeah.
It's funny. My dad, in like 5 years, he only visited me in a dream once, and
really?
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like in this building that I lived in, like in the time, and he was like standing in the corner of this elevator. And again, this is once in 5 years. This is also like 4 months ago, like super recent too.
Wow.
I was like standing in the corner of the elevator and had like this like binder of paperwork. The elevator opens and then he's just holding this binder, and I was just like, hello? And then I gave him the biggest hug, and it literally felt real. Wow. And I woke up and I was like sobbing. But then also the next day I was like, let's go to bed. I was like, let's see you. And like, just never happened again. I was like, fuck.
Oh my God.
But like, it was crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know how any of that stuff works. But like, it was only once too. Like, not even like a figment of my imagination. Like, I can't even dream it up if I wanted to. Like, it wasn't me. I'm convinced.
So bad because I always think every time I go to bed, I do like a nightly prayer, and I pray for my mom, and I tell God or the universe, like, please take good care of my mom, I think so much about her as I go to bed. So I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm thinking about her. As I close my eyes, I'll have a dream. She'll come to me. And I think because I try too hard.
I think it'll happen when you stop. Literally 100%. When I was like, can't wait to go to bed, I was like, okay, I'm ready in bed. And I was like, I think it was like 9 p.m. and I was like, let's go.
See,
Didn't happen.
When you're not like prepared for it and you're not trying so hard, I think that's when they want to come into you. And like, because one thing someone said, I think it was my therapist. Yeah, my therapist said that they come to you when they see that you are happy. When you're having a breakdown or screaming or crying or saying, why me? Why'd you? Then it's like some reason they don't come near you. But when you're like having a good day and you're talking about them and you're asking to send me a sign, it's like they say that that's when they come to you. So, that doesn't mean you can't cry, but I'm just saying that's what my therapist said.
No, you can't cry. Everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, everything's gonna be fine.
Kidding.
No, I'm just no.
We're not saying
just
that.
If don't feel guilty. If you're having a good day and you're talking about them, you're reminiscing about the good old days and with your loved one, you never know. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been great, and I'm so glad we got to talk about all of these amazing things. I do have a few quick, rapid fire questions before we wrap up.
Oh my God, I do that to my guests. You're going to do that to me?
So I will be honest, I'm not sure exactly what you asked your guests, and I don't think we have the same questions.
We probably don't.
What's your favorite color?
Oh, okay. It's going to be purple now.
Okay.
Just because that's the color my mom sent me. Yeah.
Now to get to my real question.
Yes. Oh, God.
No, what would you tell a new caregiver who's about to navigate this journey of glioblastoma?
I would say just take good care of them and it's going to be okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And live in the moment.
What can I do to make office or hospital visits more pleasant?
Just bring some good energy into that room, because for that person who's sick, they're waiting. They're depending on you. Like when my mom, even when she couldn't talk in the hospital, she collapsed, and I would play. So I still have my phone. Like it's a mom list and it has all her favorite artists: Celine Dion, Gloria Estefan, and I would play that for her. And I would always say, "Mom, can you squeeze my hand? Can you hear me?" And she would squeeze my hand.
That's crazy. I did that to my dad too.
See?
And he was like, because he kind of stopped talking. Well, he did stop talking. He didn't kind of stop talking.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I was going to fly to New York because towards the end of his life, I was like, I went to New York City just because I was like, I want a break from being home. And the day I left, they moved him into hospice. Before I left, I was like, I sat him down and I was like, if you can hear me, like squeeze my hand. And the last finale of the podcast I talk about it, like I read him this thing that I written him, but like that was our only communication, and it was just crazy.
Wow.
And I think it's so interesting that brain cancer obviously affects your brain, but I'm fully in belief that the person is still there. You just can't express it. So I think the hand squeezing thing is it's a thing.
Wow.
It's great.
It was a beautiful. I even have a picture. I live with that. So beautiful.
That's so nice.
Thank you.
And okay. So another question: what can I expect as my loved one approaches the end of their life?
I know this is so cliche, but you will still move forward. With my mom, who was my everything, I literally thought that I'm not gonna have any life. My life's gonna be over. But here I am a year and a month, later, and I'm doing okay. So I hope that I can be an example for someone who's about to lose their loved one. Just know that you're gonna be okay. And when you wanna cry, cry. When you wanna scream, scream. If you wanna pull your spouse's hair, pull their hair, or, but, not on camera. But yeah, so just know that you're gonna be okay.
And also something I think I would add to that is it's when you want to be happy also, you can be happy, because I think a lot of people tend to think that it's wrong. There's a guilt to be happy, but at least with my father, he wouldn't want me to be sad, right? And it's good to be happy. You can grieve and still be happy. You can still travel the world, or you can,
I know my friend.
You can do all these things.
My friend who works on NBC, he had this event that we went to, and it was really, you had to dress up really nice, and it was the first time we went somewhere, and I just had this guilt, I'm going to this event. My mom passed away a couple months ago. What is happening? And I had so much guilt, but then my husband would always remind me, your mom would want you to be happy. Just you can go and have a good time and not feel guilty about it, and it's just hard. You have to do what's right for you, but just know you don't have to feel guilty, because it just you don't have to do that.
And at least for me, if it helps, I went to Coachella a week after my dad died.
Well, see,
I was whoops, I'm sorry, Dad, I want to go to Coachella. I got an artist pass. We're
He's so
going.
happy for you. He's proud of you. And I'm proud of you. Look what you're doing. This is amazing. I made a pact that whatever money that I make from my TikTok, I'm donating it to you guys. So whatever money, when I talk about my mom, it's not about if I get 1 million views, 1,000 views, 100 views, I don't care. Whatever money goes into that account, I said just for TikTok, it's going to you guys, because For me, I feel closer to my mom. Like if I can help someone else out there who's going through what we went through, then I just want to be there. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Well, Paolo, thank you so much for coming on this episode. It was so lovely to finally meet you, and I'm really thankful for you, having been vulnerable and sharing you and your mom's story. I'm just so excited we got to meet. It really is so nice to meet you, and I think a lot of people will really enjoy hearing this episode.
Thank you. You're the best. You're so good at this. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm so proud of you. And I know your dad and my mom are like,
they're like high-fiving right now. They're like, look at our kids.
Look at our kids. Okay. Yeah, look at my daughter. Look at my son. Mom, it's not about me. This is about Amber now. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's show. Thank you so much for tuning in again to another episode of Glioblastoma AKA GBM. To get in touch with our organization, visit us online at gbmresearch.org or visit us on Instagram or Facebook at Glioblastoma Research. Visit us on Twitter at glioblastoma.org or visit us on LinkedIn at Glioblastoma Research Organization. To make a donation to the organization, which is fully tax deductible, visit us online at gbmresearch.org, where you can designate your donation in honor of someone or find other methods that you can make a donation with. Thank you again for supporting us, for supporting the show, and we'll see you next week. Welcome back to another deep dive with Stash Strong. Today, let's talk about this episode to kick off our season with Paolo. I think the biggest theme through this was grief, so I'd love to hear your thoughts about what resonated with you.
Yeah, I mean, first off, his story absolutely resonated with me, his energy and just his vulnerability. But as the two of you were talking through grief, he was talking through how he's angry, which is an absolutely not only real, but acceptable and more than okay way to feel about GBM.
And valid.
But he also said and acknowledged that everyone is facing grief differently. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I had no idea about grief until month 25 when I lost my brother. And that started for me grief. And you could even say it started beforehand because you knew
I was going to ask, I feel like sometimes grief does start before.
Totally.
Even if you're not necessarily thinking about it, I feel like there are bits and pieces that kind of like come into play.
Yeah. And again, that for me, it was when I lost my brother, that was I always thought we weren't going to lose him. Right? I knew the stats. We were running Stats Strong. I knew what we were facing.
Yeah.
But while he was next to me, he was alive.
Yeah.
And as long as we could keep that going and true, to me, I wasn't processing grief at that point. And so for me, I lost my best friend, my brother, right? At 30 years old. I handle things differently than even my sister or my mom or my dad. All of us grieve differently. I think one thing that was really helpful early on for us is to actually talk about that. Right? Like,
do you guys like talk as a family about it?
Obviously, grief is a taboo topic. We keep my brother's name alive in our household. We share memories. We talk through it. We want to make sure we never forget, or at least not forget, but aren't openly talking about my brother. But I have talked with both my parents and my sister. We all are handling this different.
Yeah.
Right? Stats Strong for me has been a huge mode to handle my grief. Doesn't mean it's right for everyone, right? And so I think acknowledging, even within a family unit, right? The five of us were always so close before GBM. And acknowledging as a family that, Dad, you're feeling differently than I am at this point. That's okay, right? But talking about it and understanding how someone else is grieving. And I'm just talking at the family level, let alone then when you start to talk with someone like Paolo, who is talking about how he's angry. And the two of you have different current grief statuses, right? But like that's a real thing.
I thought it was interesting. It's always interesting when people ask me about my grief because it depends on the day. And like overall, it's been over 5 years now. I think the anniversary was like a week ago, like literally a week ago from today. And there are some days that I'm angry, some days that I'm sad, but a lot of days it's kind of just become a part of life. And I think it's so important for people to understand that grief comes in waves and there's always going to be different triggers and things that bring it up, but there is no right or wrong way to handle it. Like everyone is totally valid in however they feel like dealing with their grief. Like you said, Paolo mentioned that he was angry at this point in time, and then sometimes he gets sad. And like we literally all go through that. And I think what's so important, and I like how you mentioned in your family unit that you guys all handle this
differently. Did you ever find it difficult to understand how your other family members were handling grief and like relate to it?
Never.
Okay.
I would say I was fortunate to understand immediately that everyone handles something differently, right?
Okay.
And that's before my brother was sick. That's just something it's just a way that I live.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to accept that for a lot of people, but you have to get to a point where no one is. I have families all the time, like this person in my family is treating it differently than this person. I don't know what to do. That's okay. They have different memories with that person. They have different connections, right? I think coming to Paolo's point, like his connection with his mom is so real.
Yeah.
Right? Like goosebumps thinking about it. Like I, for an hour, immediately felt how important his mom was to him.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't change the importance of someone with how you grieve. But that's what you're going through as an individual. So I think it's also important to not get upset at how others grieve.
Yeah.
Because they could get upset at how you grieve, right?
Yeah.
We're all grieving in a different way, but acknowledging that I think is a really important part for a family to do, because a lot of times we bottle this up.
Yeah.
Right? And then it gets to a point where maybe it explodes. Like avoid that by talking about it, being open about it, right? And acknowledging that we all grieve differently.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that he also mentioned how he used to see people post about grief like on Facebook, and he would be like, oh, like that's like why are they doing that? Like I don't understand. And I was exactly the same way. Like I'd never understood why people were being so open and vulnerable to the public. And then my dad passed away, and I was like, wait, this kind of helps.
Yeah.
And like it's good to share. But then I also noticed like when I shared my dad's story, there was someone on my Instagram that had replied like, oh, I lost my mom to glioblastoma actually 10 years ago. Like, thank you for sharing your story. And obviously, you know, that's kind of spiraled into the nonprofit having become into existence, and then Warrior Wednesday having become into existence. Like, I think just the fact that people are able to share their stories through grief and get this outlet to other people that understand what they're going through is so, so important. And even if people don't understand, there are people that are empathetic, and there's people that, you know, lose someone to something else in life. And it's just, you know, there is always an end to life at whatever time, you know, everyone is different, but we're not on this universe forever. And so I think it's important to, like, you hear these different stories about how people kind of deal with their own grief and understand that it's a part of life and that it's okay and that it's normal and that it should be talked about.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, right? Like, even just if you look at my mom and dad, my mom lost her sister when she was in her teens to leukemia, right? So she now was reliving what her kids were going through because she was a sibling. How my mom processes things, she posts about my brother, right? She has memories, points, a dime here, a dime there, right? Like she's always posting about my brother, and I love it. And my dad doesn't post. He doesn't even have Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But that's his namesake, right? GJ was George John Gurner III, right? Like my dad's namesake, and my dad is grieving with it in his way as well. And I think what's important, again, is whether you want to post, whether you don't want to post, whatever you want to do, that's how you're doing it. I think what's ultimately one of the hardest things I didn't think about until we started to kind of unwrap this is accepting other people's grief.
Yeah.
Because you cannot get through the day if you're worrying about someone grieving differently.
Yeah. Like, everyone's on their own path, and it's not up to me how that person over there grieves. Even, like, your grief process, like, it's none of my business. Like, I'm here to support you as, like, you know, a friend that I've met for a couple of years now through obviously unfortunate circumstances. But, like, who am I to say that you're grieving wrong? Or who are you to say that I'm grieving wrong? Like, everyone's on their own path, and I think that's totally okay. But I think the important thing is to get the support if you need it, to ask for the support if you need it, and to understand that not everyone is the same, but it's still valid and it's still like okay.
And every day is going to be different.
Every day is different. Well, I'm so excited that we got to kick off the season with, you know, this very, very important topic. So thank you for joining me, and thank you all for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoy the rest of this season as we deep dive with Staff Strong.